there, Buck Nation, and welcome into something brand new here. This is Buccaneer Insider presented by East Bay Deli. Buccaneer Insider is going to be a weekly chat with faces from around Charleston Southern athletics, from coaches, current and former Buccaneer athletes, and others along the way. My name is Killian McClatchey, and my partner joining me every week is going to be Nicholas Case. And Nick, what is going to be kind of a little bit of a taste of what everybody's going to be getting here?
Oh, you kind of recapped it, but we're going to catch up with what the coaches are up to during everything, because we're all still doing things. There's still seasons that will happen. And there are seasons that we're impacted, and we're going to see how they're doing things. And we're going to talk to players and see what they're doing as they isolate and quarantine and hopefully hang out with some people that they care about, their family, their friends. Just see what they're up to during this whole interesting situation.
Well, it certainly is interesting, but we've got a real great first guest, the inaugural guest for the show. It's head football coach Autry Denson. It was great talking to him, and I think everybody else is going to enjoy getting to hear what he has to say as well. Welcome in, everybody. It's our inaugural guest here for the podcast. We've got head football coach Autry Denson joining us. Killian McClatchey, Nicholas Case are on the screen, and Autry, how you doing? First off, just it's been a little different here this last month and a half or so, but how you doing?
Man, I'm excellent, man. I don't complain. I live by the motto that we are blessed beyond what we deserve anyway. So for me, man, once God wakes me up in the morning, everything is icing on the cake. So it's all good.
That's awesome. Well, we'll start off with a football question, and we know you lost your spring for the team. The spring game was supposed to be this past weekend. How have you been adjusting with the team not having spring practices?
Just moving forward and dealing with what's important now. When COVID-19 hit, the most important thing, and it's always like this for us, man, thank God, is that our players are the most important people anyway. And so mentoring them as young men and as student athletes is just as important as the athletic part of it. So the coaches and I just continue to move forward with our mission of making sure that we mentor them to graduate, be on course to graduate, and also be leaders in that community. The athletic part got X, but again, because we're in the holistic development, the two parts that are, first and second, still we can serve them that way. So we just been moving forward that way.
I know you've got a sizable family. What does a day in social distancing look like for you, Autry Denson?
Oh, man, you know what? It's COVID-19 kind of gave me a little bit of an upgrade. And what I'll say about that, man, the title of coach, man, in addition, I've added dean of students, man. So I have my two younger kids at home, and then we have two grandkids that also come over during the day. But so I am in charge of behavior. I am in charge of lunch, and I am in charge of esports. And when I say esports, that is electronic gaming as an EA. So me and my son been getting a little Call of Duty in and some Madden and some stuff like that. But, man, it has been fun to say the least because I get a chance to teach my kids. I'm not even – my wife teaches my kids. I'm there assisting. But it's pretty cool to be a part of that, man. And I'm enjoying my title, man. And I also do Bible class. So that is my role. I have the easy stuff, lunch. A lot of times we have open lunch, which means they can open the refrigerator and get it for themselves. But I'm having fun, man. I'm not wired. God wired me to see the silver lining and everything, and so that's just how I am, man. My mother always said growing up that anything that causes us to spend more time with God cannot be a bad thing. So, man, I'm enjoying my one-on-one time with Christ, which I always do, but I'm getting an extension of that. And you can never be mad about family time. So, I'm having fun, man. That's the one rule, man. When God wakes us up, we got to have fun. So I'm going to have fun.
As I say, you haven't had to send any notes home to the parents or anything during class time, have you?
You know what, man? We believe in discipline. So I handle that as dean of students. We haven't had any issues. For some reason, they seem to fall in line.
That's good. Keeping a clean record for the school.
Yes, we are good right now.
You're spending more time with your family. Are they used to having you around yet, or is it still kind of weird that Dad's around so much?
You know what? It is more than usual, but I pride myself on even in a profession of coaching, even when I wasn't a head coach, because it's always been ministry for me, I don't have the same experience that most people have. I've always had a good amount of family time, and so that is just how God has blessed me. Whether I was at Bethune-Cookman, whether I was at Miami of Ohio, and even at Notre Dame, I was always blessed, man, to partake in, be a part of my kids, my family. My family is a priority. And so one of the things you've been around that when we call it up, we say faith, family, football. It's funny because my kids, when they come here or whenever they come around, they always say, Dad, you teach us the same stuff. And I tell her it's because I live it. It doesn't change. So because I prioritize Christ and then my family, I've always trusted that we will get the time we need and that I'll be able to do the job as a coach by keeping it in a alignment. So we just had more time, but it's the same. Me and my wife have always made a priority to honor God. And in return, he's allowed us to have a very quality family life in a profession where it's not normal.
One more unfootball question for you. Are you still getting up at 3, 4 o'clock every day, or are you letting yourself sleep in a couple hours at like 5, 6 o'clock instead?
You know what, man? I'm gonna blame it on my son. He's throwing my schedule off, man, because now, you know what? I can empathize with our players a lot more because one thing that I've always been the biggest kid in my house, but just naturally with time, one thing I haven't been able to do is, play video games or just hang out on my phone. And I am guilty of this. I have been doing that more. Matter of fact, I just beat Preston Nichols last night twice in golf. So you need to put that on there. So I'm also beating our players right now on video games and things of that nature. But I beat Preston twice. And so it's throwing me off, man. It actually is addicting. So I've been up later than normal. So I've been sleeping a little bit in. So, man, I've been getting up probably about 6:30, 7. So I've allowed myself to sleep in a little bit later.
Oh, nice. Got the whole getting the video games in. I was gonna say, what's the go-to game right now for you? You know what? And because I'm a competitor, man, I obviously Madden because I get to test my coaching skills. But man, that Call of Duty is pretty good, man. I'm not good at it, so I love a challenge. So like now the challenge is I got to get good at Call of Duty because I'm going online and getting smoked. I was gonna say, is your son coaching you up a little bit, little role reversal? He is, and he is not a good coach. He is so impatient. He is, Dad do this, Dad do that. And when I don't, he just throws me under the bus. So we working with empathy and patience with him right now. My wife laughs. She's like, man, what a role reversal. He's not a good coach. As a 14-year-old, that dude is very impatient. He wants to win now. Oh, man, that's all he wants to do. That's all that matters is the kill count and the win. So I'm like, come on, man. It's like my second time picking up the joystick. Can you give me just a little bit? No grace from him. No grace from my 14-year-old. He expects me to have it right now, and he cannot understand why when we play together, I am bringing the team down. Well, we'll get back to football for this one. So we know you made the jump here to CSU from Notre Dame where you were the positions coach there. What's been that biggest, learning curve or difference from being a position coach to now just running the whole show? I would say just experience is the best teacher, so you have to do it. I would say this, though. I came into coaching different, so my background has served where I wasn't coaching as long as some other folks. I had more life experiences, and that is showing to be much more valuable for me now because I had run a company, had owned several companies, had my own financial company, things of that nature within Merrill Lynch. So my life preparation as well as God blessed me to be a leader. So the one thing about it is that being a head coach and being a position coach or even a coordinator is totally different. One of them is really, coordinator, position coach is really schematic X and O's. Head coach is more of a CEO. And so I'm comfortable being a leader. So that part of it I have done, I'm very experienced with. And as far as leading people, that comes natural. So I would say just the biggest adjustment is that you actually then have to just do it. And then you're able to cater your experiences to the nuances and the needs that your football ministry needs or what it calls for in different situations. Have there been any coaches that you've kind of looked up to and leaned on since you transitioned into a head coaching role? You know what? I have a very small circle, but I've been blessed. So you think about my dad. It was my first coach. I always, rely on my dad for information and the lessons he taught me. My high school coach is like my father, Willie Dodaro. So I always lean upon him. Brian Kelly, because, my time with him just recently. But Lou Holtz,
my coach, Desmond Robinson, who was my running back coach, Earl Mosley, who was my running back coach, you know, and Urban Meyer. Me and Coach Meyer have always been very, very, very close since our time at Notre Dame. And Charlie Strong as well. He recruited me when I was coming out and also was our D-line coach. So I rely upon the same people that I've always relied upon, just reaching out to them, always picking their brains. Scott Booker, defensive back coach for the Tennessee Titans, really good friend of mine. We worked together at Notre Dame. Tom Allen. So just the same guys who I always will reach out to and rely upon. I just continue to just work my circle because those are the people who I trust, and they are the type of men that, you know, that I like to be around. So to me, character is always more important, and thank God that I've been surrounded by good men that also are very qualified from a professional standpoint too.
I like something you said in the previous question. You call it a coaching ministry, whereas other people may see this as a job. What changes when you look at it as a ministry of sorts? What changes your approach to coaching day in and day out when you look at it that way, as opposed to just coming in and leading men, but instead you are doing something more like perhaps guiding them? What changes when you change that term to ministry?
I would say the level of accountability. So when you talk about, for our football ministry, the standards that we talk about, you know, you'll see it on everything. It's on my shorts, Gio, right? So everything we do is to give a God honor and effort with the God honor and attitude. I mean, you'll ask me about winning a game, and I'll say, hey, man, it's more about honoring God with our effort and our attitude. The results will take care of itself. So an accountability from the standpoint, also a realization, I'm always very open about sharing. I never wanted to be a coach. I accepted my calling to go into ministry, and then God led me back to sports. So there is no other for me. Like, I'm very clear that this is a calling God has placed on me. So my family and I accepted that. And since we've been in it, it always has been ministry. So no matter where we were just serving the Lord. And then, so I would say that is what makes it different, is who I'm accountable to, you know, and as a result of me being accountable to Christ, you know, I'm able to be, you know, accountable to my president, to my AD, to the young men that I serve, to the coachings to the coaches that I serve, in the university that I serve. But it starts with that accountability to Christ.
All right, one last question for you. I'm coming to you from my office / man cave in my house. You are a little more decorated than I am in your career. What does your office / man cave look like at your house?
Ooh. You know what's funny is that every stop we've had along the way, I've always had an office. And when we were in Indiana, you know, you got to realize I'm a Florida boy. So, man, we went to Ohio at Mama, Ohio. We were blessed to experience a basement. Never had a basement. Man, that is unbelievable. And then we had the same thing in Indiana. So every stop always had a dedicated office in my house, and always had a man cave. What's funny about it now is that I don't have one at home this time. I do not. I don't have one. I have the things that were in my man cave. They are literally just sitting around, just kind of stacked up. Have not put anything up, have not done anything. And so it's interesting that, and my wife and I talk about that everywhere we've been, I've had that. And I would say this, Nick, I'll say this. What has happened, the biggest difference between being an assistant and being a head coach is now, instead of me just leading through a position room, I now have, God has blessed me to expand my territory. So now I can lead by following him an entire, you know, football ministry. And so I've always said that to do this right, and the reason why we've been able to have, you know, some so quality family time, is that my personal and my professional, I believe that line has to be erased. I believe that in order for us to truly serve these young men, they need to see me and my wife as much as possible interacting as husband and wife. They need to see me and my children interacting as father and son and father and daughter, and then vice versa. They need to be with us so much that the lines are blurred or they're just erased. And so it's funny that you say that. I don't have an office because my family spends so much time here that this is like our home away from home, and we're around the guys so much that it really is no need. And so I'm actually pretty proud of that. And I just kind of came to realization of that by God's grace, we have been able to erase those lines and make it all one and the same. So our Denson family and our CSU family, as my kids have reminded me of the same stuff and the same things we're preaching to them in the same way that I'm not going to fail my kids. We're not going to fail our young men here. The same way that we're going to hold them to extremely high standards, we're going to hold them to extremely high standards here. So it's one and the same. And we probably say we love them. So I tell them I love them so many times throughout the day. And I mean it, because we truly are going to make sure that we're family and we treat them accordingly. And so we're all one and the same. So no need for a man cave, no need for an office, because my office is with them, so.
I'm not going to let my wife hear that answer.
Well, coaches. I was going to say, I got one more for you, Coach.
You good?
Hopefully soon you can get back out there on the football field with your guys, but what's that one thing you're looking forward to most about getting back out there?
Just being around the guys, just being around them. The one thing that, well, there's many things we can learn from this experience, but the one thing I always pride our guys, or I always tell them, and I try to do myself, is that the realization of us being just faithful stewards, right? We always have to be faithful stewards for what I feel is God's most precious resource, which is our time. And so the one thing that this whole experience should have taught us is how precious and how valuable that time is. So, and how nothing lasts, right? So what we want to do is we want to enjoy every ounce, every second of all the good times. But then we want to trust God and have the confidence that we don't have to fall out or lose faith in the midst of those tough times, because ultimately, man, everything is about Him. I say it's God's plan on His time and for His glory. So, man, I'm really just looking forward to hanging out with the guys, having fun with them. Then I can talk trash to them in person. Like I told you, I'm beating guys online. It's not as much fun as when I can look at them and, talk trash and tell them, yeah, I beat you. So I'm just looking forward to hanging out with them.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, you got anything else?
No, I think that's great. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Head coach Autry Denson. We appreciate it. That was head football coach for Charleston Southern, Autry Denson. It was awesome getting to talk to him. It was a great time getting to hear from him about what he's doing during this whole situation. But we do have one more guest here for our inaugural show. We're going to switch things up and send it over to head cheer coach Cady Everett. Here's our second guest for the podcast this week is CSU head cheer coach Cady Everett. Might say Colton on the screen, but it is Cady here joining us. And how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
I mean, I think we're hanging in there. It's been a little bit of an interesting month and a half. I don't know. I can speak for myself, but I don't know what about you, Nick?
It's been a thing. It's been a thing. It's happened. But we're getting through it, man. We're getting through it. Well,
you're the head cheer coach, and so you've been around the CSU program for about 3 years now, but this past year you've taken over as the head coaching role. And what's it been like getting your first taste being in charge?
It's definitely been interesting. It's been fun. Kind of switched around how things were run with the program. Just making things more structured, having more discipline. And I can't thank the girls enough for just sticking by me as I came in halfway through the season this past year. So can't thank them enough for jumping on board with me and really going full throttle with all my ideas and really getting in the weight room and showing up to practices on time and just giving it their all. So I really commemorate the girls for all their hard work this past season.
Now, going back in time, you cheered at a kind of a high level of Cincinnati, if I remember right. What have you been able to carry over from what you've learned there to improve upon and well, not so much improve upon, but add to since you've taken over?
Yeah, so I cheered at Cincinnati for 3 years, so kind of have experience with cheering with a co-ed squad and just cheering at a high university with high standards. So just trying to bring that same mentality here to a smaller Division I school, but trying to do things the same as any high Division I school would do. So trying to get out there with the community and just trying to represent ourselves and show that we can compete with anybody else. So just trying to bring in that discipline, bring in the hard work and being able to be treated like any other sports team with lifting weights and all those aspects with practice, showing up early, just really the discipline and structure I'm trying to bring back into the program.
So for many people, they just see the cheerleaders as somebody that shows up during the football and the basketball games. They're just kind of there, but there's definitely a lot more that goes into it. And can you kind of tell people a little bit about what overall the cheer program is really doing?
Yeah, so cheerleading's a bit different than other sports in that we really don't have too much of an off season. Just really the summer is our off season, but we do cheer, like you said, for football and basketball. So that's our whole season, is just cheering for both of those sports and just trying to get where we are at the ability to compete as well. So I'm trying to get the program into going to different camps with our National Cheerleader Association. So camps that other high Division I schools are going to, and that will just give us more experience and give us more depth into what other programs are doing so that we can improve and so that we can definitely bring competition into our program as well.
And you say you don't really have an off season. This has kind of been the kickstart of an unintentional off season. Are you talking to your girls? How are you communicating with them? Through what methods and how often?
So I've been communicating with them about once a week and just making sure that they're keeping up with their class schedules. I think with this unprecedented time, they do have more time to focus on school, which is a good thing. And then I'm sending them workouts just to keep them going. I know some of them are doing their own at-home workouts. Some of them are stretching just to get more flexible and improve upon their jumps. And then also running around the neighborhood, just doing stuff to get prepared for our upcoming tryouts.
This kind of feels like you have an advantage because you do use weight room time, but I feel like your sport is one that kind of takes itself to in-home, like you said, stretching. If you have a backyard or a green area, you can do some tumbling. You have the ability to go out and run. You're not tied to the weight room like football or basketball or some of these other sports will be. Do you think that's an advantage for you? You lose us for a second?
Yeah, I was just saying, restart the question. Like, give yourself a countdown and then restart the question.
Okay, cool. All right. So you are a sport that is not necessarily tied to the weight room. If you have, is it doing it again?
It did again, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to ask this question. All right. So you are a sport that is not necessarily tied to the weight room. Still good?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have the ability to, say, stretch in your home, as you said. You had the ability to go for runs. You have the ability to, if you have a backyard or a greenway in a neighborhood apartment, do some tumbling. Do you think this is like an advantage for you as far as your sport and preparedness goes?
I wouldn't really say an advantage just because I do feel bad for our seniors. Our season was ended, but it kind of, cut short. We did have a clinic that we were preparing for just to get upcoming freshmen in to help prepare for tryouts. It definitely does give them an advantage for, I would say, all their schoolwork and working in the classroom. But I think our biggest downfall is just not being able to stunt and do more of the team aspects. But for sure, giving them an advantage, I think, in the classroom with being more focused and not having as many distractions when it comes to their schoolwork.
So when it comes to the instruction, you mentioned a little bit how you're kind of sending workouts and stuff like that. Is that kind of the extent of how you're being able to be involved, or are you able to kind of help out a little bit here and there when one of the members needs some help with something?
So far, I haven't had any complaints. So I think everybody's kind of just doing their own individual thing, just kind of preparing for tryouts. And I'm keeping busy as well. Cheerleading or coaching cheerleading isn't my full-time job. So I do have my full-time job that I am working from home as well for.
So what are you doing with your full-time job?
So I work for a company called SIB. So they're a financial consulting company. So I just work within the finance department of building reports. So I've just been working from home. I have my computer set up, so just working at home and trying to survive with my husband at home as well.
Now, you are married to the director of basketball operations, Cady Everett. He's for men's basketball.
Yep.
You guys have busy lives. Are you used to having him around yet? Are you trying to get rid of him yet?
Did it again, Nick.
No.
Your computer doesn't like you today.
No, it was fine for the first interview. Okay, so you're married to Cady Everett, the director of men's basketball operations. You guys have busy lives during the winter. Are you used to having him around yet? Are you trying to get rid of him?
Honestly, been nice having him around. Just having some quality time and getting time to spend time together and play a lot of sequence. We're playing lots of board games together and going on walks. So it's been nice.
Who's been winning the majority of the board games so far? I'm sure. Have you guys been keeping tally of it all?
At first it was me, but then he was running away with it. So we keep it pretty even. So.
And so one of the other things is so obviously, Colton, he's the director of basketball operations. You're the head coach for the cheer team. What's it like being the only head coach in the house?
Oh, I don't know. He's been my rock through all of this. I've definitely asked him for his opinions on different things. I would say he's got more of a leg up than I do just because he's been in it longer. But I've definitely bounced some ideas off of him and definitely asked him for his opinions on different things that come up throughout the season, different coaching tactics. He's been giving me a lot of different books to read into. So it's definitely been helpful having him around.
But you don't ever stop and say, I'm the coach here. You're just the assistant.
Oh, no.
Not yet, at least.
Right.
Win a couple more board games, then maybe you'll throw that back out there.
Maybe.
And so we've been kind of one of the things we've been talking about is obviously we're kind of all in this self-isolation life. What does a day in self-isolation look like for you?
Just been going on lots of walks and playing board games, been working my full-time job at home. So just trying to stay active, trying to keep sane with doing different things, calling my family members every now and again, definitely spending more time with my grandma on Zoom calls and playing euchre. So I would say it's kind of a blessing in disguise, this whole thing.
I think Nick's frozen again.
I'm back. It's okay.
Okay. And so another thing, you mentioned the tryouts, you're supposed to have them. What can anybody that's interested in trying out for the team do? What is kind of the situation right there for you guys?
So we are still planning on hosting our tryout in the Brewer Center on Saturday, June 13th. That's the plan for now, and also have the ability to submit video tryouts by June 13th for anybody who's out of town. We're obviously monitoring the situation with this whole COVID situation, so plans may change. So I would say anybody who's interested, just make sure to follow our social media pages. We have an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter page, so we'll definitely update those pages with any information that we have, and definitely looking at our website as well, because we'll have information on there as well as it comes closer and we make a definitive decision.
What are some of these social media handles and websites?
For CSU Sports, if you go to the cheer page, I think it's through the fan site, the fan tab, and then you go to cheer, and then let me look up these handles. I should know these. Our Instagram is csu.cheer. Facebook, if you just look up CSU cheerleading, and on Twitter, It's cheer_CSU.
Right, and they can go there to find out the latest and follow along if they want to try out.
Yep.
Perfect. And so, you mentioned this is your first year, and we'll kind of wrap things up. And at least my final question for you: what's kind of your hopes and your expectations over these next couple of years? What do you hope to kind of try and build this cheer program into?
I definitely hope to build this cheer program into a place where we are able to compete. Definitely need more structure and just a little bit more talent coming in. So definitely trying to build the talent and just trying to make this program comparable to any other Division I program. So we're definitely looking for this next year, having the whole squad be able to tumble. That's definitely one of our goals, and just trying to build our skills. I think that once we do have a presence within the NCAA cheer camp, I think that'll definitely give us an advantage to look at what other teams are doing and to see how we can grow our program and get to that higher level.
So what you're saying is cheer season 2 coming to Charleston Southern.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I think that's everything for me. Nick, do you have any final
No, I think that's good. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come talk to us, especially since you are balancing 2 things at once here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. That's Cady Everett, head coach for the CSU cheer team. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the time, Cady. It was great getting to talk to you and getting to learn a little bit more about what the cheer program is trying to do and trying to build. And that's just about everything we've got for you this week. Nick, any final thoughts for the week?
I thought that was about as good a first show as you can have, aside from some technical issues. But whatever. What can you do about that? Cady was great. Autry was great. A lot to live up to for week 2.
Yeah, we do have some more coming next week. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled on all of the CSU social media accounts, as we'll definitely be letting you know who's coming up next week. We can't forget, we want to thank our presenting sponsor, East Bay Deli, for helping us put this on. And don't forget to stay tuned for next week of Buccaneer Insider. For Nicholas Case, my name's Killian McClatchey. See you next week.